The bright emergency lights flashed across the curved walls of the Galactic Confederacy's outpost. The station orbited a small moon near the edge of the Orion Arm, usually a quiet posting where nothing happened. Not today. "Signal confirmed," said the communications officer, a slender Zephyrite with pale blue skin. "It's coming from the Helios sector. Unknown species." Ambassador Klethnar rushed into the control room, his 4 arms moving quickly to adjust his formal robes. As the senior Vesperian diplomat, any first contact situation fell under his authority. "Show me," he ordered, his insect-like eyes blinking rapidly. The main screen lit up with strange symbols and waveforms. The translation computers worked for several minutes before words appeared. "This is Colony Ship Arcturus. We are under attack. 42% of our population lost. Krazoth Empire vessels surrounding our position. Limited weapons remaining. If anyone receives this message, we have authorized the activation of Protocol Omega-9. The Deathworlders have been contacted. May the stars forgive us." Silence fell across the control room. Even the normal hum of equipment seemed to fade away. "Did it say Deathworlders?" whispered an aide, her thin fingers trembling. Ambassador Klethnar felt his breathing tubes contract. "Send emergency summons to the Confederacy Council. Priority Alpha." Within hours, representatives from 17 species gathered in the station's conference chamber. The room buzzed with nervous energy as officials from across the Confederacy argued with increasing panic. "The message must be a trick," said Counselor Vex of the Dramari. "The Deathworlders have been quarantined for 300 cycles. The barrier beacons are still active." Ambassador Klethnar studied the latest reports. "Our deep space monitors show Krazoth fleet movements consistent with an invasion force. 12 Confederacy worlds have lost contact in the past 30 days. But to contact the Deathworlders," said Science Minister Prill, her gill slits pulsing with anxiety. "Do we have confirmation they've actually been reached?" A junior diplomat named Zrix stepped forward. Unlike most Vesperians, he had spent time studying forbidden knowledge about the isolated species. "Our long-range scanners show unusual activity in their home system, multiple ships moving outward beyond their 4th planet." The room erupted in fearful voices. "They cannot be allowed to join the galactic community." "Have you seen the historical records? Their planet is classified as a Class 12 death world. They evolved alongside predators. They eat other living beings. Their bodies contain actual bones inside them." Ambassador Klethnar raised all 4 hands for silence. "The Krazoth Empire has already destroyed 3 Confederate worlds. Their emperor has vowed to eliminate all non-Krazoth life forms. We face extinction." On the main screen, new information appeared. A fleet of ships had been detected leaving the quarantined solar system. 27 vessels of unknown design, moving at speeds that shocked the Confederate scientists. "The historical records say they only achieved spaceflight 200 cycles ago," whispered Science Minister Prill. "How can they have ships that fast?" Zrix, the junior diplomat, looked at the data with growing interest rather than fear. "The old stories say they adapt quickly, that their short lives drive them to rapid advancement." Ambassador Klethnar made his decision. "We will establish contact with these humans. If the Krazoth Empire threatens all civilized worlds, perhaps we need allies who aren't civilized." "What do we actually know about them?" asked Counselor Vex. "They come from a planet with crushing gravity, toxic atmosphere, and extreme temperature variations," said Zrix. "Their bodies contain metal in their blood. They can survive injuries that would kill any of us. And according to the oldest records, they were quarantined not for their technology, but because a Confederate assessment team was traumatized by witnessing their natural abilities." The screen updated again. The human ships had increased speed, somehow breaking through the quarantine barrier beacons without slowing down. "They're coming," said Ambassador Klethnar quietly. "May the stars protect us all." Captain Frank Miller stood on the bridge of the USS Defender, his eyes fixed on the strange signal patterns dancing across the main screen. The ship hovered near Neptune's orbit, part of Earth's outer defense network. "Any progress decoding it, Lieutenant Grant?" he asked. Communications Officer Olivia Grant shook her head, her fingers moving quickly over her console. Nothing yet, Captain. It's unlike anything in our databases. Get Dr. Peterson up here, ordered Miller. If anyone can make sense of this, it's him. Dr. Alan Peterson arrived minutes later, his eyes widening at the signal pattern. The linguistics expert had studied theoretical alien communication for 15 years. Now he was seeing the real thing. It's beautiful, he whispered, sitting down at the communication station. The math patterns suggest a base 8 numerical system, and these repeating sequences might be language markers. For 6 hours, Peterson and Grant worked to decode the message while Captain Miller informed Earth Command of the situation. Finally, a breakthrough came. We've got it, Grant called out. The computer has found enough patterns to start translation. The message played through the ship's speakers. It came from something called the Galactic Confederacy, warning about aggressive forces called the Krazoth Empire. Most shocking of all, it referred to humans as the quarantined Deathworlders of Sol 3. They've been watching us, said Miller quietly. All this time. Within 24 hours, leaders from all major Earth nations gathered virtually to discuss the message. Admiral Beverly Howard of the United Space Command took charge of the meeting. The signal included coordinates for a rendezvous, point just beyond Pluto's orbit, she explained. They're requesting our help against these Krazoth attackers. Why us? Asked the Chinese premier. And why have they kept their existence secret until now? Dr. Peterson cleared his throat. The message contained references to something called a Class 12 Death World. I believe they're referring to Earth. They seem frightened of us. Admiral Howard nodded. From what we can gather, these Confederacy species evolved in much more forgiving environments than Earth. They consider us extremely dangerous because of our biology and physical capabilities. The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. We need to assemble a response team, said the American president finally. Military and diplomatic. Admiral Howard already had a plan. I recommend Captain Miller's USS Defender lead a fleet of our best ships. We'll need scientists, diplomats, and military personnel. Christopher Ramirez, a veteran diplomat with 30 years of experience, volunteered to head the diplomatic team. If they're as afraid of us as it seems, we'll need to approach carefully. Dr. Samantha Kelly, the leading xenobiologist at Harvard, was selected to lead the scientific team. We need to understand their biology if we're going to interact safely, she pointed out. Over the next 3 days, 27 ships assembled near Neptune. The USS Defender would lead the fleet, carrying key personnel from around the world. Lieutenant A. Commander Daniel Page was tasked with developing combat strategies. We know nothing about their weapons or tactics, he told Captain Miller. We'll be going in blind. Engineer Allison Murphy worked round the clock to adapt Earth's weapon systems for space warfare. Our railguns should work well in vacuum, she reported, and our missiles can be modified for zero-gravity combat. On the final day before departure, Captain Miller addressed the assembled fleet crews via video link. We don't know what we're heading into, he said honestly. These aliens have watched humanity for centuries without making contact. Now they're desperate enough to ask for our help. Whatever these Krazoth forces are, they must be truly dangerous if the Confederacy is willing to break their own quarantine to reach us. He paused, looking at the determined faces on his screen. Today, humanity enters the galactic stage. Let's show them what Deathworlders can do. The human fleet moved through the darkness of space toward the rendezvous coordinates. Captain Frank Miller watched from the bridge of the USS Defender as his crew worked with focused intensity. No one spoke much. They were about to meet actual aliens. We'll reach the meeting point in 30 minutes, reported the navigation officer. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Page stood beside the captain, reviewing combat simulations on his tablet. I've run 15 different scenarios based on what little we know about these Krazoth forces, he said. And? Asked Miller. If they have energy weapons, we could be in trouble. Our shields were designed to stop asteroids and space debris, not laser fire. Engineer Allison Murphy joined them, her uniform wrinkled from 2 days without sleep. I've made some adjustments to our railguns, she said. They now fire at 30% higher velocity. If these alien ships have shields, our projectiles should have enough kinetic energy to break through. Captain Miller nodded. Good work. What about our scanning systems? We've recalibrated them to detect unusual energy signatures, Murphy replied. If there's alien tech out there, we'll find it. On the lower decks, Dr. Samantha Kelly briefed her science team. Remember, we have no idea what these Confederate species look like or how their biology works. Be prepared for anything. A young scientist raised his hand. What does it mean that they classified Earth as a Class 12 death world? Dr. Kelly smiled. It means we evolved on a planet they consider extraordinarily dangerous. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, dangerous, wildlife and natural disasters that would terrify them. So we're basically Space Orcs, and another scientist joked, and nervous laughter filled the room. In the diplomatic section, Christopher Ramirez reviewed first contact protocols with his team. We show no weapons, we speak calmly, we move slowly. These beings are afraid of us, so our job is to appear as non-threatening as possible. An alarm sounded throughout the ship. Unknown vessels detected, announced the ship's AI. On the bridge, the main screen showed 3 strange ships appearing in front of the human fleet. They looked like giant curved leaves shimmering with a soft blue light. Defensive positions, ordered Captain Miller, but no weapons lock. Let's not start a war by accident. Communications Officer Grant listened intently to her earpiece. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. The translation system is processing it now. A moment later, a strange voice filled the bridge. Human vessels, this is Ambassador Klethnar of the Galactic Confederacy. We welcome your assistance. Please follow our ships to the secure meeting location. Miller leaned forward. This is Captain Frank Miller of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress call and have come to help. We look forward to meeting you face to face. There was a long pause before the alien replied. Face to face. Yes. Please prepare your representatives for physical meeting. We have special chambers for species with your unique needs. 6 hours later, a small human delegation boarded the largest Confederate ship. Captain Miller led the group, which included Ramirez, Dr. Kelly, Murphy, and 2 security officers. The airlock opened to reveal a large, circular room with high ceilings. 3 aliens waited inside. They looked nothing like humans expected. Ambassador Klethnar stood 7 feet tall with 4 arms and a body like a praying mantis. His skin was a deep green, and large compound eyes studied the humans carefully. Beside him stood a being that resembled a blue jellyfish floating 3 feet off the ground. The third alien looked almost like a fox with 6 legs and metallic fur. Welcome, said Klethnar, his mouth parts moving strangely. You are the first humans to officially meet the Confederacy. Captain Miller stepped forward and extended his hand, then remembered this gesture might be meaningless to the aliens. He lowered his arm. Thank you for your welcome. We come in peace and friendship. The alien stepped back suddenly when Miller moved, the jellyfish-like being rippled with what seemed like fear. Is something wrong? Asked Ramirez. Ambassador Klethnar's voice trembled slightly. Forgive our reaction. It's just your density, your speed of movement. The readings we're getting from your biology are most unusual. You truly are Deathworlders. Dr. Kelly moved forward slowly. We'd like to learn more about your classification system. What makes Earth a Class 12 world? Your planet, said Klethnar, is the most dangerous inhabited world we have ever encountered, and you are its apex predators. The Confederate Council chamber buzzed with anxious voices. Representatives from 17 species argued loudly about the human presence. Ambassador Klethnar stood at the center, trying to maintain order. They should not be here, shouted a tall, thin alien with crystal growths on its head. The quarantine was established for our safety. Another delegate, a round being with tentacles, waved a data pad. Have you seen these scans? Their bones are inside their bodies. They have iron in their blood. One of them could break any of us. In half without trying. Ambassador Klethnar raised all 4 hands. The Krazoth Empire has destroyed 12 Confederate worlds already. We face extinction. The humans have offered help. In a separate meeting room, the human delegation waited. Captain Miller and Christopher Ramirez sat across from a nervous Confederate military official named Vrelpor, a salamander-like being with silver skin. "Your ships are primitive by our standards," said Vrelpor, reviewing data on human vessels. "But your weapons use physical projectiles at high velocity. Interesting approach." Miller nodded. "Our railguns fire tungsten rods at a significant fraction of light speed. Engineer Murphy believes they should be effective against most shields." "Most Confederate species use energy weapons," Vrelpor explained. "The Krazoth use a form of plasma cannon. No one has used physical projectiles for war in thousands of years. They may not be prepared for such attacks." Military advisor Gregory Kent, a broad-shouldered man with 30 years of combat experience, leaned forward. "Tell us about Krazoth tactics. How do they fight?" Vrelpor seemed uncomfortable with Kent's direct manner. "They prefer overwhelming force. They surround their targets and attack from all sides. They have never faced defeat, so they have grown overconfident. Overconfidence is a weakness we can exploit," said Kent with a smile that made Vrelpor flinch. Meanwhile, Dr. Kelly and her team explored the Confederate Science Lab. She studied the biological data on display with growing amazement. "None of these species evolved with significant predator pressure," she told her assistant. "They come from worlds with stable environments, minimal competition, and few natural threats." A Confederate scientist named Zrix approached carefully. "Your world is different," he said. "You evolved while being hunted. While hunting others, it shaped you in ways we find disturbing." Dr. Kelly demonstrated by picking up a metal tool. "This weight would be heavy for your people?" Zrix nodded. "Most Confederate species could not lift it." She held it easily with one hand. "Our gravity is stronger than most of your homeworlds. Our muscles and bones developed accordingly." "And your endurance," added Zrix. "Confederate records show humans can continue physical activity long after our species would collapse from exhaustion." In another section of the station, cultural, Attaché Patricia Martinez met with Confederate civilians. They kept their distance, watching her with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "Is it true you eat other living things?" asked a small, plant-like being. Martinez nodded. "Plants and animals. Yes, does that frighten you?" The civilians moved back further. One whispered to another. "They consume death to live." Later that day, the human delegation regrouped to share findings. "They're terrified of us," said Martinez, "simply because we evolved on Earth." Lieutenant Commander Page had spent hours with Vrelpor developing tactical scenarios. "There's potential here. The Krazoth have never faced anything like us. Neither have the Confederates. We're completely outside their understanding of normal biology." Captain Miller considered this information. "We need to use that to our advantage, but we can't exploit their fear. We're here as allies, not conquerors." "Anne," alarm blared through the station. A Confederate officer rushed into the room. "The Krazoth have attacked New Vesperia colony," he announced. 30 ships, thousands of civilians at risk." Captain Miller stood up. "How far is it?" 2 light days from here. Our fastest ships would take—" "We can be there in 20 hours, interrupted Miller. "The USS Defender and 5 of our vessels. The rest of our fleet can follow." The Confederate officer blinked in surprise. "Your ships can sustain such speeds?" "We've been improving our drives," Miller said simply. "Ambassador Clethonar, we need coordinates and any tactical information you have on the colony's defenses." For the first time, the Confederates looked at the humans not with fear, but with hope. "The Krazoth believe the colony will fall within days," said Ambassador Clethonar. "They have never encountered Deathworlders in battle." "Then it's time they learned what that means," said Captain Miller. The USS Defender dropped out of faster-than-light travel near New Vesperia. 5 other human ships followed close behind. Through the main view screen, Captain Miller saw the battle already underway. 30 Krazoth vessels surrounded the small colony moon. their weapons firing continuous streams of plasma at the weakening shields. "Status report," Miller ordered. "3 Krazoth destroyers are breaking off to intercept us," reported the tactical officer. "Confederate defenses at 30% and failing. Colony has approximately 5,000 civilians and a small defense force." Miller nodded. "Battle stations. Deploy railguns 1 through 4. Target the nearest Krazoth destroyer." The USS Defender shuddered as its main weapons powered up. 4 massive tungsten rods, each weighing over a ton, accelerated to 20% of light speed before launching toward the approaching Krazoth ship. The impact was immediate and devastating. The first rod punched through the Krazoth shields, like they weren't there. The second, third, and fourth rods tore through the alien vessel, leaving it breaking apart in space. "Direct hit," announced the tactical officer with surprise in his voice. "Enemy vessel destroyed." The remaining Krazoth ships paused their attack on the colony and turned toward the human fleet. Their communications channel opened. "Unknown vessels. This is Commander Grutok of the Krazoth Empire. You have attacked an Imperial ship. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Captain Miller smiled grimly. "This is Captain Frank Miller of Earth. We are here to defend New Vesperia. Leave this system immediately or face the consequences." There was a pause before the Krazoth commander responded. "Earth? The quarantined world? The Confederacy must be truly desperate to release the Deathworlders." Without warning, 5 Krazoth ships fired at the human fleet. Their plasma weapons splashed against the shields of the USS Defender. "Shields holding at 87%, reported Engineer Murphy. "Their weapons are powerful, but our modifications are working." "Return fire," ordered Miller. "All ships engage." The human fleet split into 3 attack groups, using maneuvers that Lieutenant Commander Page had developed. Their sudden change in direction seemed to confuse the Krazoth vessels, unused to ships capable of such rapid acceleration. Within 30 minutes, the battle had shifted dramatically. 7 Krazoth ships were destroyed or disabled, while the human fleet had suffered only minor damage. "Captain, we're receiving a distress call from the colony surface," said Communications Officer Grant. "A Krazoth ground force has breached the outer dome. They're attacking civilians." Miller turned to the Marine commander. "Colonel Johnson, prepare your team for ground deployment. Get those civilians out." Colonel Eric Johnson led 50 Marines to the colony surface in 3 dropships. They landed near the main habitat dome, where Krazoth troops had broken through. The air was thin and filled with strange gases. "Helmets sealed," ordered Johnson. "Remember, we're here to evacuate civilians, not just fight." The Marines moved into the colony with practiced precision. They encountered Krazoth soldiers, large reptilian beings with natural armor and plasma rifles. The aliens seemed shocked when the humans continued fighting, despite injuries that would have killed Confederate soldiers. Sergeant Nancy Lewis led a team to the central shelter where most civilians had gathered. When they arrived, they found the shelter's air system damaged, filling the room with gases toxic to the Confederate species, but merely unpleasant to humans. "Your atmosphere is poisoning them," explained a colony administrator, himself struggling to breathe. "We cannot move them through that section." Lewis removed her helmet. "The air's not great, but I can breathe it. My team can carry your people through." The administrator stared in shock. "But the toxin levels are uncomfortable, but not lethal to us," Lewis finished. "We're Deathworlders, remember?" The Marines carried hundreds of civilians through the toxic zone to safety. Many Confederate species were so light that a single Marine could carry 3 or 4 at once. From orbit, Captain Miller watched as the Krazoth forces began to retreat. 15 of their ships had been destroyed, while the rest jumped away to safety. "They're running," announced Lieutenant Commander Page with satisfaction. A communication came in from the colony governor, a Vesperian like Ambassador Klethnar. "Captain Miller, you have saved New Vesperia. Over 2,000 lives preserved. The way your soldiers carried our people through toxic atmosphere. Many witnessed it." Miller nodded. "Just doing our job, Governor." "Perhaps," said the Vesperian. "But word is spreading across Confederate space about the Deathworlders who came to our aid. The Krazoth believed we would fall within hours. Instead, they learned what it means to face Earth's defenders. 1 week after the battle at New Vesperia, Captain Miller sat in the conference room of the USS Defender. Ambassador Ramirez entered with a troubled expression. "We've received a communication," Ramirez said, "from the Krazoth Empire directly. They want to speak with us. Only us. Not the Confederacy." Miller frowned. "What do they want?" "To offer Earth a deal." The communication screen activated, showing a Krazoth official. Unlike the soldiers they had fought, this one wore elaborate decorations and had darker scales. "I am High Minister Drek of the Krazoth Empire," the alien said. "I speak with the authorization of Emperor Zexicon himself. This is Captain Frank Miller and Ambassador Christopher Ramirez of Earth. We're listening." The Krazoth minister's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "Your species has impressed us. The Confederacy has been hiding your existence for centuries, fearing your potential. We offer you a place of honor in the Krazoth hierarchy." "In exchange for?" asked Ramirez. "Withdraw your protection from the Confederacy. Join us, and when our conquest is complete, Earth will rule 20 systems as our favored ally." Miller and Ramirez exchanged glances. "We'll need time to consult with our government," Ramirez replied diplomatically. After the communication ended, Admiral Howard was immediately contacted. Her response was clear. "Reject their offer, but keep them talking. Meanwhile, we have intelligence operations to run." Intelligence Officer William Foster volunteered for the most dangerous mission, with a Confederate guide named Thrix. He would infiltrate Krazoth territory to gather information about their fleet movements. "Their security scans check for weapons and technology," explained Thrix, a small furry being with large eyes. "They never check for biological capabilities because no Confederate species could survive an infiltration mission." Foster nodded. "But a human can." They slipped aboard a trading vessel that regularly visited Krazoth space. When security forces boarded for inspection, Foster hid in a compartment filled with cleaning chemicals that would kill most species. "These fumes would destroy a Confederate's lungs in minutes," whispered Thrix from a separate hiding spot. "Can you breathe?" "It burns a bit," Foster admitted. "But I can manage." For 3 days they gathered critical information about the Krazoth fleet. Foster discovered the location of their main communications hub, a station that coordinated all Krazoth military movements. Meanwhile, back at the Confederate headquarters, Dr. Kelly worked with alien scientists to integrate human and Confederate technology. "Your reflexes are twice as fast as our fastest species," said a Confederate engineer in amazement. "If we connect your pilots directly to our ship systems, response times would improve dramatically." Pilot Heather Morris volunteered to test the new interface. "It's like the ship becomes an extension of my body," she reported. "I can feel every system, react instantly to any threat." Admiral Howard arrived with Ambassador Ramirez to solidify the Human-Confederate alliance. "The Krazoth believe strength is the only virtue," said Ambassador Klethnar. "They have never encountered a species physically stronger than themselves until now. We've received intelligence that they're planning a major assault on the Confederate homeworld," Howard informed them. "They believe it will break the alliance." "How many ships do they have?" asked Klethnar. 212, replied Howard. "A significant force. The Vesperians seem to shrink. We cannot stand against such numbers." Admiral Howard smiled. "That's why we've called for reinforcements. The rest of Earth's fleet is on its way." When the Krazoth Empire launched their attack 3 days later, they found the Confederate homeworld protected by not just the original human fleet, but 150 additional Earth vessels that had traveled at unprecedented speeds to join the defense. From the bridge of the USS Defender, Captain Miller watched as the massive human Confederate fleet moved into position. Engineer Murphy approached with a tactical update. "We've developed something new," she said. "A combat maneuver that only humans can perform. The G-forces would kill any Confederate pilot, but our pilots can withstand it." "What are you calling it?" asked Miller. "The Terran maneuver," Murphy replied. "It involves a rapid acceleration turn that puts tremendous strain on the body, but allows our ships to flip direction almost instantly in battle. As the Krazoth fleet appeared at the edge of the system, Miller opened a channel to all human ships. "Remember what we're fighting for," he said. "Not just Earth, but the right of all species to exist free from tyranny. Today we show the galaxy what humans stand for." The battle was about to begin. The battle for the Confederate homeworld raged for 3 days. The combined human-Confederate fleet pushed the Krazoth forces back system by system. Captain Miller's USS Defender led the charge, demonstrating the new Terran maneuver that allowed human ships to change direction at speeds that Confederate or Krazoth pilots could never withstand. "They can't predict our movements," reported Lieutenant Commander Page from the tactical station. "The G-forces we're pulling would kill their pilots." In space, human reflexes and endurance proved decisive. On the ground, the difference was even more dramatic. When Krazoth troops landed on one of the outer colony moons, Marine Sergeant Nancy Lewis led a squad to evacuate trapped civilians. Her team found themselves surrounded by 20 Krazoth soldiers in a narrow canyon. "Hold position," Lewis ordered her Marines. "Protect the civilians." What happened next was recorded by Confederate security cameras and broadcast across their networks. Lewis, alone, charged the Krazoth position. She moved with a speed the aliens couldn't match, her body absorbing impacts that would shatter Confederate bones. For 15 minutes, a single human soldier held off 20 Krazoth warriors, giving her team time to evacuate the civilians. When reinforcements arrived, they found Lewis bloodied, but still fighting. 3 Krazoth lay dead, and the rest had retreated. The recording spread across Confederate space. The title attached to it was simple: Deathworlder. On the 8th day, the Krazoth fleet finally withdrew from Confederate space. The cost had been high: 17 human ships lost, 32 Confederate vessels destroyed, but the homeworld was safe. In the aftermath, the Confederate Council called an emergency session. Ambassador Klethnar stood before the representatives of all 17 species. "I move that Earth's status be immediately upgraded," he announced. "The quarantine restrictions must end. Humans have proven themselves not just capable allies, but essential to our survival." There were murmurs of agreement. Fear had not disappeared, but it was now mixed with respect. "The motion is approved," declared the Council President. "Earth is officially recognized as a full member of the Galactic Confederacy, with all rights and privileges." Meanwhile, Dr. Kelly worked with Vesperian scientists in their medical facilities. The exchange of knowledge had already led to breakthroughs for both species. "Your bodies can repair damage that would be fatal to us," said the chief Vesperian doctor. "If we can understand how, we might improve our own medical treatments. And your regenerative techniques could help us with diseases we haven't yet cured," Kelly replied. "We have much to learn from each other." Across Confederate planets, the perception of humans was changing rapidly. News reports showed Confederate civilians approaching human visitors with curiosity rather than fear. Children asked to feel human muscles or watch demonstrations of Earth sports. The Krazoth Empire, however, was not defeated. A message arrived for Captain Miller and Ambassador Ramirez. "The Krazoth Emperor requests your presence for peace talks," announced Admiral Howard. "This is unprecedented. They've never negotiated with species they consider inferior, which they clearly no longer believe about humans," noted Ramirez. The human delegation traveled to a neutral space station for the TU meeting. Captain Miller and Ambassador Ramirez faced the Krazoth Emperor, a massive being with black scales and golden eyes. "You fight well, Deathworlders," said Emperor Zexcon. "Better than any species we have encountered in 1,000 years." "We fight to protect, not to conquer," replied Ramirez. "Something your empire might learn from." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Do you know why we sought to conquer the Confederacy so quickly? We intercepted transmissions about Earth decades ago. We knew that if the Confederacy ever overcame their fear and allied with Deathworlders, our advantage would vanish." Miller leaned forward. "You could have sought alliance rather than conquest." "Perhaps," admitted the Emperor, "a miscalculation we now regret." As negotiations continued, the Emperor revealed something surprising. "Your species is not the only one from a high-gravity world. In the far reaches of the galaxy, There are others like you. We feared what might happen if the Confederacy found them first. Miller and Ramirez exchanged glances. The galaxy was larger and more complex than they had imagined. Then perhaps, said Ramirez, it is time for a new approach. Not based on fear or domination, but mutual respect. The Emperor considered this. You have earned the right to speak such words, Deathworlder. We are listening. 3 months after the peace talks began, the Krazoth Empire formally surrendered. The signing ceremony took place on their throne world, a planet with higher gravity and thicker atmosphere than most Confederate worlds, but still comfortable. For humans, Admiral Howard oversaw the treaty negotiations with steady determination. The terms are non-negotiable, she told the Krazoth officials. All conquered worlds must be returned to their original inhabitants. Your military will be reduced to defensive capabilities only. Emperor Zexcon, once feared across the galaxy, signed the document with a sense of resignation. You have defeated us fairly, he acknowledged. The age of Krazoth expansion is over. On Earth, celebrations marked the official opening of borders to interstellar trade and cultural exchange. Alien ships appeared in Earth skies for the first time, no longer hidden behind quarantine barriers. Ambassador Ramirez established permanent human embassies throughout Confederate space. His diplomatic corps grew rapidly as humans and aliens learned to work together. The fear is fading, he told Captain Miller during a celebration on the Confederate homeworld. They're beginning to see us as people, not just Deathworlders. Miller nodded. It helps that we're not as scary as they imagined. Yes, we're physically stronger, but we're not the monsters they feared. Dr. Kelly led a new scientific initiative called Project Resilience. Its goal was to help Confederate species develop greater physical adaptation to harsher environments. We can't change their basic biology, she explained to a group of scientists, but we can help them develop technologies and techniques to survive, conditions they currently find impossible. A young Vesperian scientist named Zrix had become her eager assistant. The term Deathworlder has changed meaning, he told her. Once it was whispered in fear, now it is spoken with respect. Throughout Confederate space, the stories of human bravery spread. Sergeant Lewis, who had held off 20 Krazoth warriors, received medals from 3 different species. Engineer Murphy's innovations were being studied in technical academies. Lieutenant Commander Page's battle tactics became standard training. On the final day of peace negotiations, a new galactic charter was signed. It established humans as peacekeepers for the rebuilt alliance of species, acknowledging their unique capabilities as an advantage rather than a threat. We stand at the beginning of a new era, announced Admiral Howard at the ceremony. Not as separate species divided by fear, but as galactic citizens united in purpose. The USS Defender, repaired and upgraded with new technologies, prepared for a different mission. Captain Miller addressed his crew on the bridge. We came into space ready for war, he said. Now we go forward in peace and exploration. Our new mission is to seek out other worlds like Earth, other death worlds with species who might join our alliance. The ship now carried representatives from 12 different species. What had once been a purely human vessel had become a symbol of cooperation. Even a young Krazoth officer had joined as part of the peace agreement. As the USS Defender prepared to depart, Ambassador Klethnar visited Captain Miller one last time. We feared you for so long, the Vesperian said. We called your world a death world because we could not imagine surviving there. We called you Deathworlders because we thought you would bring destruction. And now? Asked Miller. Now we understand that strength forged in harsh conditions does not have to be used for harm. It can protect, it can build, it can unite. Miller smiled. That's what humans have always tried to do at our best. Use our strength to help others. The USS Defender's engines powered up as it prepared to leave orbit. On the bridge, humans worked alongside beings from across the galaxy. Their mission would take them to distant stars, seeking other worlds where life had evolved under challenging conditions. Throughout Confederate space, the story was told of how an SOS signal had sparked fear, but the arrival of the Deathworlders fleet had brought not destruction but salvation. Species that once feared Earth now looked to it as a guardian and friend. The quarantine was over. The isolation had ended. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not as conquerors but as protectors. And across the galaxy, the meaning of Deathworlder had forever changed from a term of fear to a badge of honor.